Johnny here, and welcome to a brand new ranking video. Today, we're going to be ranking every companion in Dragon Age the Veilguard. Now, to be specific, we're going to be ranking the 7 selectable companions. There is Asan, and there is Manfred, which are the little skeleton dude, and then the Griffin. The skeleton dude is with Emmerich, and then the Griffin is with Davrin. We're not going to be ranking those, because you don't get to, play them. You don't get to, really use any of their abilities. They're kind of just there to add some character to the companion they're attached to, and so we're not gonna rank them, but I do want to shout them out because they are great characters. They're just not necessarily considered companions in a way. They're more or less just characters in the game. But we're gonna be ranking these 7 selectable companions in Dragon Age the Veilguard. This game just came out, and I'm personally in love with it. It's easily one of my favorite games of the year. I don't know, I really don't know what my favorite game of the year is currently, but I absolutely love it. I do think the game is getting a lot, way too much hate. But, you know, it is a fun game. I've yet to do my review just because I'm currently playing through it for my second time, and I don't really want to do a review until I finish my second playthrough, because it is one of those games I definitely want to spend more time with first. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. I thought the combat was great, the story was great, but easily one of my favorite parts about the game is its companions and its story. Its companions is one of the best group of characters I've seen in a game in a long time, personally, for just what I look for in characters and my personal enjoyment and how attached I got to characters. All 7 genuinely I like to a certain degree. There's obviously some I love more, which is what this ranking is for and what we're going to determine. But each character has their pros, each character has their cons, and depending on your playthrough, everyone's list is going to look different. That's the thing, because depending on your playthrough, who you decide to romance, who you decide to use more often, who you decide to throw under the bus, who you decide to be aggressive towards, who you decide to save, who you decide to kill. All of that really depends on how attached you get to your characters, because truly this is a game where you experience your own story. You experience Rook's story, which is you in the game. And yeah, it just delivers a lot to talk about when it comes to the companions, and that's kind of been a specialty of BioWare for a long time. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to rank all 7 companions in Dragon Age the Veilguard. But if you guys love gaming, please consider subscribing, sharing with your friends. I really do appreciate all the support you guys give me. It doesn't matter what you love: Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, third-party, indie, VR, whatever it may be. We talk about gaming daily on this channel because we love it. And thank you also for all the support, especially the one on this video right here. But nonetheless, let's get talking about ranking the Dragon Age the Veilguard companion, starting in 7th place. And like I said, even though she is coming from 7th place, I really enjoy this character, and that is Ballara. Ballara is the techie in the group. She has this kind of, I guess you would say bow and arrow in a way, but it's definitely more a futuristic powered up bow and arrow. She is a part of the Veil Jumpers faction, and you know, I really like the things she does in this game, especially in the 3rd act, and I think her side quest with her brother and stuff like that, I'm gonna try and not get into spoilers too much in this video. I'm gonna say certain things that they do. I'm not gonna say certain things that happen, if that kind of makes sense, things you go do, places you go, but I'm not gonna say decisions you have to make or outcomes of any of that. But I think her side quests are very strong, and I think specifically her 3rd act performance is very good. And I definitely, this was a character that grew on me over time, whereas the first 2 acts I really didn't care about Ballara, and I really didn't want to use Ballara at all. But towards the 3rd act and towards endgame, I was definitely you know what, let's take Ballara on this mission. And I was definitely worried that Ballara might die towards the end, but at the end of the day, I think when I'm comparing what abilities Ballara has to use and just how much I felt attached to her, or who would I automatically want to be on my team, Ballara does fall a little bit short for me. I definitely am not the biggest fan of her personality. It's in terms of her moment-to-moment dialogue. She is a bit more of that quirky character, and I do like my fair share of quirky characters, but unfortunately, Ballara just didn't work for me for a lot of the game, but nonetheless, she is still a delightful character, and I definitely think she does have some memorable moments and some moments that I definitely enjoy. But she does come in at 7th place. Coming in 6th place, Harding. Well, it's kind of funny. I put both of the bow and arrow people in the in the last 2 spots. But here's what I'll say about Harding. I don't think her being in 6th place is an accurate representation of the quality of this character. I think the quality of this character is genuinely one of the strongest in the game. Not only in my playthrough did she have easily one of the most emotional moments, I thought she had one of the most interesting character arcs as well, like in terms of like what her side quests were about. But at the end of the day, with a game like this where you choose companions to use abilities to develop certain relationships and develop just how the game plays out, I didn't find myself utilizing Harding or really just getting attached to Harding in any such way until basically those final couple missions where she does have one of the most emotional moments in the game for me. But it's just the thing. I personally just don't find her character as interesting as the other ones. It's nothing that I can really say anything bad about Harding. It's just I didn't find her as interesting and I didn't use her as much, and therefore it just, she didn't leave as much of a lasting impression on me as some of these other characters, which are the top 5. And in this case, the top 5 I think are all fantastic characters. Like I genuinely love all of these top 5 characters. I think Harding, I wouldn't say I loved her, but I really liked Harding because she did deliver a lot of great moments. She delivered a lot of layers. She delivered a lot of interesting interactions with other characters. And she definitely is a focal point in terms of this cast. You can tell certain characters in this game definitely got a little bit more focus than others, and I do think Harding is one of those, and for good reason, because like I said, she has interesting plot lines, she has interesting things to do. It's just, for me, I did not find myself getting very attached to it or being very interested, but I still enjoyed a lot that she gave. But yeah, Harding comes in at 6th place. But cracking in our top 5, starting it off, we have Emmerich. Emmerich is the sorcerer, the wizard, whatever you want to call him. And here's what I'll say is, kind of like Balara, I wasn't really a huge fan of his personality. He's kind of like I expect him to be more like, especially off the trailers, I expected him to be more of like a very like all-powerful, like stand on business kind of guy, who just had this amazing power, and he would be so serious, and he would be like kind of the dude to just bring bad news and tell everyone, look, the world's just gonna end. That's just how it's gonna be unless we do this one thing. But instead, he was kind of a scaredy cat in a way. Like, I mean, like his whole side quest is basically about him being afraid of dying, and so he wants to go out and basically become immortal. So, you know, it kind of definitely threw me for a loop at first, because it just wasn't what I was expecting. But what really delivered about this character is everything that's around him. Manfred, obviously, like the little character we talked about earlier, the little skeleton dude, he is special. He's just such an adorable, he's such a loving character that they implemented in this game. I think works really, really well for Emmerich, who also gets used in his side quest, which helps Emmerich as a character. But I think his like outfit, his weapons are very cool. I think his powers are cool. I think his gameplay, he delivers a lot of, he's like one of the most, I would say, unique of the companions in terms of like his gameplay abilities and stuff. And I do think there are a lot of moments in this game that definitely stand out to me of why I love Emmerich. Genuinely, the only reason he's not higher on the list is just because, number one, like I said, he wasn't exactly what I was expecting, even though I did end up liking what we got. It wasn't what I expected, but also I just thoroughly enjoyed the other ones more. Nothing against Emmerich. What I will say is I do think he has, if not the best, it's top 2. It's top 2 of side quests in this game, because you do have to make a decision, which is a very important decision. One of the hardest decisions in the game. through Emmerich's side quest, and that one is really either way you go, you're gonna feel a lot of emotion. You're gonna ask a lot of questions, and you're gonna want a lot of answers. And that's what's so special, not only about this game, but with this character and with these characters, is you have a lot of these moments. And I think Emmerich captures that perfectly. Emmerich really is a wonderful character. And I just love the way they used him with the group, and just with the overall plot of the game. I thought it was very, very good. But coming in 4th place is Tosh. Tosh is the Dragon Hunter, the easily one of the most, I don't want to use a interesting word. I'm going to say one of the most unique characters, in terms of how they tackled, developing this character. This is the character that decides that they are a non-binary, and I know there's been a lot of controversy and a lot of talk about just the game and it tackling a lot of these topics. But what I will say is, if you are somebody who can get over that, the story they tell with Tosh is, I think, very special. I think the story they tell with Tosh is very special. In a lot of ways, I think Tosh has the most interesting story, because it's just something you don't get really in any other video game, and it's just something that felt very different compared to all these other characters. But what I will say is, again, the only reason I don't have Tosh higher is, number one, I just prefer my top 3. My top 3 are my easy top 3s. But there are a lot of moments where I wasn't a big fan of Tosh's personality. Like, it just didn't fit the vibe, or some of the writing or the delivery of lines didn't necessarily hit. But what I will say is Tosh is definitely one of my favorites in terms of gameplay ability. They are a powerhouse, and they are just absolutely fun to use their abilities and to bring alongside you. They have a lot of great dialogue and a lot of great deliveries in game. Like, whenever you use another companion, Tosh will end up like saying another word. I think those kind of dialogue moments are really great. But no, I think Tosh genuinely is just one of the most interesting, unique characters of the bunch, which is why they are this high. But my top 3 is easily my top 3. And kicking that off is what seems to be everyone's favorite right now, which, I mean, I'm not surprised. This character just seems like he would be everyone's favorite, and that is Lucanus, which is the assassin, I think is what you would refer to him to. He's so cool. He is so cool. Genuinely, this is the character where he is loved because of how cool he is. Not only is just his concept very interesting, where he has an inner demon trying to take control of him. He also comes from one of the coolest factions in the game. He comes from one of the coolest locations in the game. He has interesting decisions throughout the whole game. He has an interesting side quest. While I do think it is one of the weaker side quests, it is still interesting. He has a lot of moment-to-moments that is just very delightful, and you're very interested every time. And he also has amazing gameplay. A lot of his moves are cool, they're fun, they're useful, and I just think overall he is one of the best characters in the game. Again, I feel like a broken record. The only reason he's not higher is just because I personally got attached and preferred 2 other characters. But I think Lucanus being majority of people's favorite companion really doesn't surprise me, because he delivers on everything you want out of a companion, out of a character, out of a gameplay perspective. He just delivers, and match that with how cool he is. Like, his character, his accent is amazing. Everything's great. I do wish they did spend a little bit more time on his inner demon plotline. it felt like they were going to push that really hard, and it kind of just, I don't really feel like it paid off in a way, but nonetheless, I thoroughly enjoyed everything Lucanus had to offer in the game. But coming in top 2, starting with number 2, we have Nev. Nev is the character who I romanced in my first playthrough. And here's what I'll say, is I definitely feel like Nev is a worse character than what I feel, because I romance Nev, and because Nev is who I used in gameplay the most. She was my highest level. I feel like I enjoyed her way more than what most people are going to, because I do think out of all the companions, I do think Nev has the worst writing, in a way, because I do feel like a lot of her dialogue, deliveries, and a lot of just her interactions kind of fall flat in a lot of ways. But the reason Nev is in my second place is what I just said. I personally just became very attached to Nev. I personally loved her gameplay. She's easily the one who I would pick every time going into a big mission, because I knew her abilities would help me the most. And I think she's really cool because of her sorcery, because of her mage character. She has the ice abilities, which I think is very neat. I love her design, and while I don't necessarily love her story, I think everything revolving around her, Minrathis, and just some of the different plot lines or scenarios regarding Nev really stand out to me, and therefore it kind of just helped me fall in love with Nev and her character, and I think it is very strong for me. I can definitely see Nev being lower on the list for a lot of people, and honestly wouldn't be surprised. But for me, Nev was definitely one of my favorites. And yeah, coming in at number 1, my favorite companion in the game, it has to go to Davrin for me. I think Davrin is definitely not one I expected to love as much as I did, and honestly, I didn't really know Davrin was my favorite until doing this video, because while writing this ranking and while ordering them, I was trying to debate who I wanted number 1. It was either Lucanus, Nev, or Davrin. And when I looked at everything, I realized Davrin had everything. Davrin was the complete package when it comes to a companion. He was debatably my second favorite gameplay of all the companions. He had one of my favorite character arcs and storylines. He came from one of my favorite factions. He had a lot of great moments in terms of decisions, in terms of consequences and results. He had a great design. He had Asan, which is the Griffin, basically sidekick, if you would say. I really enjoyed Asan. I think the Griffin is just such a delightful character. Really everything about Davrin I really enjoyed. There's not one thing I would say I did not love about Davrin. And I'm sure I'm going to love him even more after my second playthrough, because if you guys have played the game, late in the game, you have to make a lot of decisions, and one of the decisions regards 2 main characters, which is, I'm not going to say who they are, but Davrin has a big impact in one of those decisions, and I did not get the outcome where Davrin is front and center with that. So I'm very curious how I'll feel about Davrin when I make that decision in the next time. But genuinely, I think Davrin just is the complete package. It's everything you want out of a companion. It's everything you got out of a companion. His side quest is pretty much all about the Griffins, which I really love. But then, not only that, I feel like he has one of the main character arcs throughout the main story. A lot of these companions get most of their character arcs through their side quests, whereas Davrin has a character arc in the main story, and the side quest is more about the Griffin. So you're kind of getting a mix between both there, and it just resonated with me more than anyone else, and I definitely had to put Davrin at number 1. But there you have it. There is my rankings of all the Dragon Age Veilguard companions. Like I said, this is my ranking. Everyone's going to have a different ranking. I'm sure people have Balara at 1, Lucanus at 1, Tosh at 1, Emmerich at 1. I'm sure they have Nevin Davern at the bottom. I'm sure there's a lot of different rankings, but for me in my playthrough, at least my first playthrough, I might do a second one of these videos after I review the game and after I've beat it my second or third time, just to see where I'm at with all the characters, because this game is super special in the way everybody's gonna have a completely different experience, and that's something I love about this game. But let me know in the comments, what is your ranking? Who are your favorite characters? I'd really love to know. But thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, definitely leave a like, leave a comment in the section down below provided, and please subscribe. I will see you all in the next one. Johnny Morales. Peace.